into closed debate so we could actually get on with debating the bills that you don't want to debate and some of the ones that you do want to debate. So, Senator Ruston.
Senator Ruston.
This is Senator Ruston, everybody, this morning. Senator Ruston has been so helpful in getting so many bills through over as manager of opposition business. But anyway, are you intending, Senator—
Minister Wong, please resume your seat. Senator Ruston, you've just taken 12 minutes to put your point of view. The time now, you need to be silent. Minister Wong, please continue.
Well, I move that the motion be now put.
So we're going to put the motion— yes, we're dealing with the— Senator Ruston, shall I just give you the chair? Right. So we're dealing with the amendment as moved by Senator Ruston to Senator— yes, beg your pardon, I'm jumping ahead. The question is that the question be put. Those of that opinion say aye. Against? I believe the aye. Division required. Ring the bells for 4 minutes. Senator Wong, are you seeking the call?
Rather than having a fight, we are supporting your amendment, so I'm proposing that we close this debate so we can vote on the amendment that we are supporting.
I have moved that the question be put and a division was called by the opposition. Yes.
Seeking clarification that the division that we're currently in is the question by Senator Wong to put the question. This is not a division on the question before the chair. Thank you.
To put the question on the matter before the Senate, which is Senator Ruston's amendment.
Yes. Division is cancelled. Thank you. Order! Order! There are way too many people interjecting. Question now is that the amendment as moved by Senator Ruston be agreed to. Those of that opinion say aye. Aye. Against? I believe the ayes have it. Senators, I have called about 3 times. There are way too many senators standing up. If you're not participating in debates, please leave the chamber. Also, the advisors at the back of the room need to be sitting down, not wandering around. So the question now is that the motion is moved by Senator Gallagher be agreed to. Those of that opinion say aye. Aye. Against? It is the motion as amended as moved by Minister Gallagher. Minister Wong.
I appreciate that there's been a bit of confusion on that side. As I understand it, the opposition or the chamber gave Senator Gallagher leave to move the Hours motion in amended form.
Yes, that's correct.
So that is what is before the chair.
Yes, that's
Senator
correct.
McKim has requested that that be voted on separately. You are now putting that. I don't know if there are other speakers on the Hours motion. And then I assume that there will be a set of separate votes, given that different senators are voting different ways on different provisions.
Yes.
That's my understanding.
So I put the question is now
No, I was just
others.
clarifying,
yes.
President.
Senator McKim.
Thank you, President, and thanks to Senator Wong for clarifying where we find ourselves. So, President, is it appropriate now to indicate which parts of this motion the Greens would like to be put separately?
Yes, because the motion's before the chair, Senator McKim.
Thank you. So we are requesting that 6F, which is the Online Safety Amendment Social Media Minimum Age Bill 2024, 6H, which is Migration Amendment Removal and Other Measures, and Migration Amendment Prohibiting Items in Immigration Detention Facilities, bill, so that is 6F, 6H for Harry, and also 9J, which is the Veterans Entitlements, Treatment and Support Simplification and Harmonisation Bill 2024. So we're asking that those three, 6F, 6H and 9J, be put together separately so that we can vote a different way to our position on the rest of the motion.
Thank you, Senator McKim. So the question is that the motion be agreed to in respect of those three paragraphs as outlined by Senator McKim, which is 6F, 6H and 9J. Senator Birmingham.
Thanks, President. Just wanting to make sure we've got clarity, and also just while we're checking in relation to one other aspect of this, because it's a very chaotic process being imposed upon the Senate by the government, that the function of, or the result of Senator McKim's request is, of course, for those three bills to be put separately but together, and that obviously the intent of the Greens in making that request, given what's required in the standing orders, is presumably that they are voting one way on all of the rest of the motion in its totality and a different way on those three particular bills.
Very well described. Thank you, Senator Birmingham. So I have put the question. I'm happy to put it again. So the question is that 6F, 6H and 9J be taken together and voted on. So those of that opinion say aye. My goodness, I've just spelled it out, but I will say it again. So the question that I'm asking for agreement on is the motion is moved by Senator Kim, which is 6F, 6H, 9J be taken together and moved as one, which is exactly as you described, Senator Birmingham.
President, could I propose that you should put the rest of the motion first, because in fact those clauses on their own are meaningless without the enabling clauses in the rest of the motion.
Well,
so it would make more sense to put
that I move them together,
the rest of the motion first,
I can do
excluding those three bills, and then to put those three clauses.
So the question now is, does any other senator wish to have or to vote in a different way if I put the remainder of this amendment without 6F, 6H and 9J? I'm not seeing anyone calling for... Yeah. So the question is that the motion be agreed to and that we treat separately 6F, 6H and 9J. Those of that opinion say aye. Against? No. I believe the ayes have it. Division required. Ring the bells for 4 minutes. Okay. I have requested that the advisors at the back of the room remain seated. It is a privilege for you to be in this place. Well, lock the doors. So the question is that the amendment standing in the name of Senator Gallagher without 6F, 6H, 9J be agreed to. The ayes shall move to the right of the chair, the noes to the left. I appoint Senator Giacone as teller for the ayes and Senator O'Sullivan as teller for the noes. At Senator Hanson-Young. Order. There being 33 ayes and 34 noes, the matter is resolved in the negative. I am advised that as 6F, 6H and 9J don't have operative clauses to them, they are now redundant, and I call the clerk.
Government Business Order of the Day number 1, Online Safety Social Media Minimum Age Bill 2024, second reading debate.
All yours, sir.
And I'll okay. Order, Senators. For those of you who are not participating in this debate, could I ask that you leave the chamber quietly? If you are remaining in the chamber, please resume your seats and observe the proceedings in silence. Senator Kovacic.
Thank you. I rise today in support of this legislation, and I want to make one thing abundantly clear from the outset. The Coalition has always been firmly opposed to the implementation of a mandatory digital ID. There is rightfully widespread concern in the community about the security of personal data. With data breaches and leaks from major corporations dominating the news, it's entirely understandable that Australians are worried about the safety of their private information. But beyond the issues of data security, there is a much bigger concern at the heart of this debate: the growing dangers that social media poses for our children. And when it comes to the tech giants, platforms like Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram and TikTok, it's clear these mega corporations have shown time and time again that they have not prioritised our children's safety. I echo the very real concerns of many who reached out to me on this matter, and I want to be clear that I don't support any system, including a digital ID, that compromises the privacy and security of Australians. Such things should always be voluntary. Thanks to the efforts of the Coalition, the bill includes crucial safeguards that prevent social media companies from forcing anyone to hand over sensitive personal information or documentation. This bill is not about restricting individual freedoms or lecturing parents on how to raise their children. It's about giving parents the tools and support they need to protect their kids from the very real dangers that are online. The core focus of this legislation is simple. It demands that social media companies take reasonable steps to identify and remove underage users from their platforms. This is a responsibility these companies should have been fulfilling long ago, but for too long they have shirked these responsibilities in favour of profit. This is not a radical concept, it's a necessary one. Similar provisions are already in place in places like Florida, Utah and Louisiana, where social media companies are required to take reasonable steps to verify the ages of their users. These steps are overseen by regulators, ensuring that companies are held accountable for their actions. Under this legislation, failure to comply could result in fines of up to $50 million. Let's be clear, these companies have the capability to act. They can deploy their vast resources when they choose to do so. Take TikTok, for example. In 2023, TikTok removed 76 million underage accounts globally, including 1 million right here in Australia. So that's 76 million underage accounts globally they removed, and they did that of their own accord. And it wasn't too difficult, too complex, too hard, or anything like that. They just did it. They did this also without requiring digital IDs or any sensitive personal documentation. Instead, they used technology they already have, They use technology that they already use, the same technology that they can use to customise feeds and algorithms, which they do every single day. They use it to identify underage users. If TikTok can do this, so can other tech giants like Meta, which is valued at some $2 trillion. Imagine if there were a financial incentive to identify underage accounts. I expect we wouldn't have to wait too long to see some outcomes in that regard. Mark Zuckerberg and his billionaire peers have repeatedly demonstrated that they care more about money than they do about the safety and the mental health of our children. They have the ability to do this without compromising or changing any mechanisms of privacy that people have not already handed over when they open their own accounts voluntarily. This bill takes a big stick approach. It's the only way to get their attention and force them to make the changes that are so desperately needed. We must hold them to account, and this legislation does just that. Social media and the digital world is an ever-evolving tech behemoth, and it's long overdue for our laws to evolve with it. Ask any millennial what their online experiences were like 10 years ago, and compared to now, you'll see a massive shift. And it's not a good shift. It's not a positive one. Social media platforms for young people were once dominated by dedicated safe spaces for children. Sites like Club Penguin, where families felt confident that their kids were protected. But today, that landscape has changed dramatically. Studies show that just a single exposure to extremist, racist, misogynistic, or violent content can trigger algorithms that push even more harmful content to the viewer. Just one view. And then it can become part of your standard feed. So a child just needs to happen across it once, and then it'll keep coming. And we aren't talking about websites on the dark web. We aren't talking about obscure blogs on the depths of the internet. We are talking about content that is littered across TikTok, Instagram and Facebook. TikTok, which was deliberately designed to be addictive. Think about that for a moment. Do we really want 13-year-old children being exposed to this kind of platform and content, where their purpose was to make it addictive to our children? This should be unfathomable, yet here we are. The protection of children from the toxic elements of social media and the online space is one of the most urgent issues of our time. And this is not about telling parents how to care for their children. Parents are already doing everything that they can. But social media is one of the biggest problems discussed among parents across our country. I've spoken to countless parents who are literally crying out for help, telling me they need action to protect their children from the risks online. Polling from YouGov shows that 77% of parents support measures to safeguard children from the harmful effects of social media. Parents know the dangers these platforms pose for their children, and they want us to help them take action. They want us to help them protect their children. The data tells a harrowing story. The mental health of Australian children, especially girls, has deteriorated at an alarming rate over the past decade. Hospitalisations for self-harm among girls aged 10 to 14 have increased by over 300% in that time. Young boys are targeted by sexual predators, with the AFP reporting hundreds of incidents this year alone. And these are those that, and what about those that go unreported, where the parents are unaware of the grooming and attempted grooming of their children? There need to be mechanisms in place to minimise this as much as humanly possible. We had a hearing on Monday, albeit a brief one, in relation to this matter, and I was deeply disturbed by some of the comments from one of the witnesses who suggested that there was an exaggeration as to the harms found online. I don't think there's an